Well, all of those capping emotions are really fear-based in the sense that they're a fear of getting to the underlying emotion. When you no longer are afraid of all of your emotion, you'll find that you'll very rarely experience any of those capping emotions. So once you're no longer afraid, you'll very rarely experience anger. You'll very rarely experience jealousy, if ever. You won't ever experience them, in fact, in time. You won't experience guilt, and you won't experience shame, and quite a lot of other emotions, which are all emotions that are basically based around fear of an underlying issue that you don't want to touch.
But Lena, it looks like your fears, okay, everybody has its own definition for fears or whatever. I have mine. But in your case, for me, it looks like it's a little bit like a lack of communication, because you fear that another people will think something. If you will just tell them what you feel a little bit uncomfortable with, it will be dissipated. You know, in your case, maybe I'm wrong.
No, I
It's just a lack of communication. You're afraid that somebody will think something big.
I'm not afraid, I just feel...
It's not afraid. Yeah, no, I'm not afraid.
You can be very truthful about it. You can say to them in that situation, so let's say you invited somebody, like you said, to a picnic and it starts to rain, and you feel responsible for that.
Yeah, because it's a big bad time.
And obviously you're not responsible for it, but you believe you are somehow. So you could say straight to them, look, I'm really feeling like I'm responsible for it raining. I know that sounds crazy, and that will actually help you. Speaking the truth to yourself will help you out access the underlying fears and help you out access the underlying emotions. The key for you is to just live in truth. You know, most of the time, most of us struggle with just being open and truthful. Don't we? Like, how do you really feel today? Oh, I'm good. But
I know.
But are you really good today? You know what I mean? Like, what is the real feeling? And there's a feeling that we often have within us that nobody really wants to know our real feelings. And one thing that we're going to have to get used to on the Divine Love path is to state your real feelings, even if you feel everyone around you doesn't want to know them. In other words, you're going to have to get used to living truth and actually being exactly what you feel right at any one moment. And that takes a bit of practice initially, because what's actually happening is you're actually confronting the emotion of trying to please others. And once you confront that emotion and release that emotion of all the reasons why you've tried to please others in the past, you'll find that you'll get to the state where you can just be yourself at any one time and feel relaxed in every situation.
So to say, if I really feel something inside of me, but I don't want to express it to other people, I know that I feel it, but I don't want to show them.
Yeah.
I create a conflict.
That's right.
Okay.
And you've got to look at sincerely why you don't want to express it to the other person. Usually it will be because you're afraid of their reaction or their response. You're afraid of losing them as a friend. You're afraid of, look at all those fears, because underneath all of those fears are a whole group of emotions.
Well, normally I don't want to bother them with my stuff.
All right, so you don't feel you're worth bothering them with your stuff.
Yeah.
So that's another emotion. Does that make sense? No, emotion of unworthiness when you're with others. So if you go into them, you'll find that you'll be able to access lots and lots of different emotions by just going into these little things that occur, even tiny little events that occur in a single day. You'll find sometimes there's quite large emotions. If I can give you an illustration, that there was a lady that I knew that every time she hopped in the car, she just flipped down the mirror, looked at herself in the mirror and flipped back up the mirror. You know the visor mirror that's right in front of you? Yeah. And every single moment she hopped in the car, she did that. So she could spend an hour in front of the mirror doing her makeup and everything else, and she'd walk out into the car, and the first thing she would do is flip down the mirror in the car and flip it back up again. Now that sounds like a really innocent action. But once we started talking about it, she finished up screaming at me, right, in her anger about me bringing up this tiny little action, that there is an emotion underneath it. And after she finished up screaming at me, she went into this really big crying, gut-wrenching crying session, which lasted nearly an hour. And she connected with what was actually going on. When she was very little, her mother told her that no matter how good she looked on the outside, it was on the inside that counted. And the implication from her mother was that she was never going to look good on the inside. And that's how she felt. She felt in the inside of her, she felt that she never looked good. Even though she's a pretty woman, she never looked good. That's how she felt on the inside. And just that flicking down of the visor and flicking it back up again, it was a way of accessing that emotion.
Boy, I've learned tricks along my long journey, and something really pops up because when someone asks me, how you feeling, Joseph? Well, do you have about 10 minutes? I want to tell you how I really feel. No, I really don't have time.
So the best.
But that's actually a method of me diffusing it.
The main reason why I ask people now how they feel is because I know how they feel already, because I can feel it from them. But I know that they don't know how they feel. So I find it's really good to actually help a person to connect with how they're actually feeling at any one time, just by asking that question. But we're so used to just saying, oh, great.
Yeah.
And straight away, some of you would have heard me say, well, no, I didn't want to lie, I wanted the truth. But if you want to tell me a lie, that's okay.
So sometimes, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Sometimes I'm talking to somebody and like, how are you doing? And I see this person does do really good, but they're like, it's fine, it's okay. So is it good, like, can you talk about real feelings or something?
Yeah, be truthful with everyone around you. If you know that they're not being truthful with you, just ask them, well, just say to them, look, I would like to know you properly, not just know the facade, So I know that there's something going wrong with you, and if you want to talk about it, I'm here to talk about it with, and if you don't, well, that's okay, that's your call. But, just present to them that you do feel quite different than what they've just said to you, and that may help them just open up and connect to their own emotions.